Let us go back to the web form 1. So in web form 1, we use a grid view to display information, whereby there are some features that we have incorporated, such as paging and sorting. So what we can do now is that we can add other features such as editing and deleting to the grid view. Okay, now the first thing for us to do is that we need to go to the SQL Data Source. Okay, here click this button to expand. Okay, configure data source. Okay, click next. Okay, now here on the right there is a where, order by, and advanced. So now I'm clicking advanced here. Okay, there is an option for you to check. So generate, insert, update, and delete statements. So by default it is not selected. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select this. Okay, once we select this, this also appears, but you do not need to check this. Just leave this be, and I click OK. Okay, then I click next, and I click finish. Once we have done that, we change that. Okay, now click to this button. Okay, expand. Now you will find suddenly there is this enable editing and enable deleting. Previously we do not have this. So basically what I'm going to do is that I'm going to check this. Okay, I'm going to check this. Now you can see that there is this edit and delete hyperlink, okay, in each of the rows. So if I am to run this, okay, so basically, for example, we have a set of edit and delete. For example, let's say that I click something here, the index number 8. So let me edit this. See, when I click this, you can see that I can key in something. Okay, so basically now once I've entered this one, I click update, and now this has been updated. So if I am to actually edit, I can edit this again to the original one. Okay, and I click update. Okay, now if you click delete, this will be automatically deleted the whole row. Okay, so basically I'm not going to try this because I would like to retain the rows of record for my examples. Okay, but if you click this, it will be the row will be deleted automatically. Okay, so basically this is using a grid row, we can edit and delete, but for a grid row we cannot add new rows because that will be using a different data control. Okay, but not grid view. Okay, let me close the browser. Okay, for the purpose of our next example, which we are going to format some of this information. So basically I would not like to use all this edit then delete. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to reset this, okay, so to disable editing and deleting. Okay, so as for the SQL data source, I do not change anything because basically you do not have to change anything. Okay, so basically just uncheck this, so it will become as the original one. Apart from if you choose to add these other functions, yes, you can do so. If not, just uncheck. So if we are to run this again, okay, you will notice that there are some of the formatting that we can actually change. For example, the date of birth, there is a time here. So how can we eliminate this particular time, and in addition to that, we are going to also format in terms of what are the columns that we want within this grid view, or even the sequence of the columns. Let's say that we want to format the date of birth based on just the date, and we are going to exclude the time here. What we can do is we click here. Okay, there is edit columns. Now you are given this particular display. Here are the available fields, meaning that the fields that you can actually access from the table, and these are the selected fields. So the selected fields means that the fields that have been used within this particular grid view. So what we are going to do is that we are going to focus on the selected field. So I choose date of birth. Okay, here scroll. Okay, you will notice there is a part here which is data, and we have the data field as date of birth, and this is the data format string. Okay, now the format string is given here. This is the general format, okay, whereby the formatting that is applied to the bound value. For example, like this. Okay, so how do we go about in formatting this date? Okay, first and foremost, what you need to do is that you need to include this set of curly bracket. Okay, a pair of curly bracket. Date of birth is based on a specific column, which is the date of birth column from the table. So this is represented by this 0. Okay, so this is index 0. So meaning that we only have one bound field here, date of birth. So this is index 0. 0 refers to date of birth. Now, type in a colon, and after this, we are going to type what kind of formatting that we want for our date. Okay, let's say that we want our date to be in the format of day. Day is D slash M uppercase slash Y. Okay, so we have D slash M slash Y. So D is actually for the day, M is for the month, represented by numbers. For example, if this is April, April is represented by 4, and Y is 2020. So we click OK. You will notice that this particular date is 12. Today is 12/4/2020, meaning that this is the 12th of April 2020. Okay, if we are to run this, this is the particular date. So this is 1st of July 1995. So July is represented by the integer 7. So let us edit some other format for the date. So we go back to the edit columns, go to the date of birth, we scroll. Just a note, this M must be an uppercase. Okay, if we are to put in DD MM Y, and I click OK, you will notice that the format will be, okay, DD, this is the same, it's just 1204. Okay, the month is 04 and so on. Okay, now the difference is that if we are to run this, okay, you will notice now 1st of July 1995. Okay, let me enlarge this. Okay, 1st of July 95, so this is 01. So this is represented by DD. 07, this is MM, which is M is uppercase, and this is YYYY 1995. Now, let us have a look at other date format. We click Edit Columns, go to Date of Birth, scroll. If I am to actually add another M here, okay, let's say that I'm not going to use an sort of a slash, just a D, M, 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 so there are 3 M's, okay, and I put a comma here, D, M, 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 comma, Y, 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 we click OK, so the date will be like this. Okay, you will notice here, the month now is represented by the name of the month. And if I am to execute this, okay, now the date of birth now is, you will notice this is 1 JUL, we have the comma just now, and this is 1995. Now let us have a look at another format. So we edit our column, go to date of birth. Okay, now go to the data format string. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to actually add another M. Okay, another M. I'm going to add another M. So now we have M, 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 M. Okay, all uppercase. And we click OK. Okay, you will notice that the name of the month is in full. Let us try to run this. Okay, you will notice that now the date 1st of July is 1 July 1995. So meaning that the date of birth is in full. So this format is D space M, 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 whereby M is in uppercase. We have comma, and here is Y, 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 Y. Let's say now that we want to actually omit this email from our grid view. So what we do is that we highlight the column here. For example, I'm highlighting email column. Okay, we go here. You will notice that there is remove column here. So if I am to remove column, now I have removed this column. Now the email column is no longer here. So how do I add the email column back into this grid view? So just click anywhere within this particular grid view. Click here. Let's say that I'm going to add new column. Now here there are several types. So currently we are using bound field. So later on we will see some other types of field in other examples. The data field, I'm going to choose this as email. And let us type the header text. So the header text is email. And I click OK. Okay, you will see that email will be inserted here. Let's say that I want to actually reposition this particular column. So we can actually move this column to the left. So we move this column to the left. Some more. Okay, this is move column to the left, and this is to move column to the right. So we can actually rearrange any of the column that we want within this particular grid view. So this is the original position. So if we run this, okay, you will also notice that for each of these, okay, the header text, this is based on the actual name of the column within the table. So we can change these particular names to a very specific name that of our choosing. Okay, let me close this first. Is that okay? Just click anywhere within this grid view. Okay, let's say that we want to edit our columns. Okay, now here we have the index number and so on. Okay, let's say that I want to actually change, let's say the name. Let's say that I want to change this to student name. Okay, and student ID, I want to change this to student ID, and IC number, I want to change this to IC number. You can see that there is a space. Okay, see, this is student name, student ID, and IC number. So we change at the header text. So I click OK. Okay, so now if I run this, you will notice that we have changed this. Okay, the header text has been changed or customized. Okay. Next, what we are going to do is that let us go back to the initial grid view that we have used for us to display TBL students. Okay, just for refresh, let us run this. So basically, we have actually created this particular view, okay, of a web form. So what we are going to do now is that I'm going to add another column, okay, somewhere on the right, and I'm going to actually include the images of all these students. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to add the images for each student. Now, there are two things that you need. First, you need the images. So I have prepared some example images for this, and you can download that from VLE. So what I'm going to do, that for each of the image file, I'm going to use the student ID as the name of the image. For example, let's say that for student number 1, okay, the image file would be 545454545.png. Okay, you can choose any image file type, but for this example, you should use for each of the students, the image file type must be the same. For example, if you are using JPG, then everything will be JPG. You can also choose to use a different type of image file. For example, let's say you want to use IC number, that is fine as long as it is unique and can be referenced by any of the columns within this table. Or for example, you want to use index number 1.jpg for Shamsul Anwar Mukhtar. That is also possible. But for my example, I'm going to use the student ID. Okay, I'm going to use the student ID. Okay, let me actually close the browser first. Okay, now the first thing that we need to do is that we need to have our image file folder here. So I have actually prepared an images. This is a folder, images, and you can see that there are images here. this is the student ID and this is PNG files. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to drag and drop the whole folder to this project. Okay, so these images, now I'm going to drag and drop here. Now you have images and you have all the image file that I'm going to use in this particular example. Now, next. So, the next thing that we are going to do is that we are going to add a new column to this grid view. Okay, just click on this grid view. Okay, click here. So here, whether this is highlighted or not doesn't matter. Okay, let's say I do not highlight this. Now add new column. So I'm going to add to the end. Now by default, the field type is bound field, meaning that it is bound to the value of the field. Okay, but here, because we are going to display images, I'm going to select, we have image field. So select image field. Now we need the header text. What is the header text? These are the header text. So by default, the header text will be taken from the name of the column within the table. But however, because this image field is not based on and this is a new column, okay, so we need to type in the header text. Let's say that I'm going to type in photo. Now this is the data field. Okay, you can see that there's no drop down list here. Okay, once you have added this one, okay, although there's nothing for us to select here, okay, we need to refresh the schema. Click refresh the schema. Okay, now you will find after we refresh the schema, there is a selection here. So the selection will be based on our TBL students. Okay, now because we are basing the image on the student ID, okay, I'm going to select student ID here. Okay, now here is the URL format string. Now our URL format string, this is actually how do we reference, okay, the value or the data within existing column, which is the student ID, but we want to display student ID.png. Okay, now the first thing is that you can see that, look at the solution explorer on the right. Okay, this is the root directory and the images, okay, the image files are stored in the images folder. So first thing is that we type images. So this is the folder. Now we type slash. Okay, now it's inside the folder. Now because here the data field is student ID, so student ID now will be referred to as this curly bracket 0 and close the curly bracket. Okay, now this will actually represent the values of student ID. Okay, now we have the image type is PNG in my example, so I type .png. Okay, now we click OK. Okay. Now you will find now we have a new column, photo, data bound, and so on. Okay, now let us run this first. Okay, you will find, okay, there is an image here. You can scroll down. Okay, but however, you see that the images now is in the column, but the image size is too large. So we need to resize the image file here so that it fits nicely in our grid view, okay, for our purposes. So let us just close the browser first. Okay, so what we do next is that we are going to edit the column again so that we can specify the size. Okay, this is the photo. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you highlight or not. Just go edit columns. Okay, now scroll for photo. You will find there is this new field, selected fields, photo. Okay, now scroll down. Okay, now there is what we call the category styles. Okay, now what concern you is the control style. So now expand this. Okay, you will see that there are several properties here that you can use, and you will notice that you can actually implement CSS class for the photos and so on. But let us just focus on this. Okay, now let us limit the width or the height of the particular image size. So you have to choose just any one, either height or width. Okay, because once if you change the width, it will proportionately change the height or the width. Okay, just change one. So let's say that I'm going to select, okay, let's say that I'm going to select the height. Okay, I'm going to limit the height to 50 pixel. Just type 50 and it will add 50 px. So the size is in pixel. Okay, so now I click OK. Okay, now to see the result, let us run this again. Okay, now you will see that there is a photos here. Okay, now for each of this photo, it corresponds to each of this particular student. Now what we are doing here is just an example of what we can do by including some photos here. Okay.